So good morning, everyone. Thank you for making it in today and joining us on Zoom. So this is the O'Neill's presentation of the National Consumer Week, Protection Week. We have a really great panel with us today. They're knowledgeable individuals from a variety of agencies across Ohio. They're going to talk to us today about protecting yourself against scams and frauds. I'm Amanda Castle. I'm the activities coordinator here at the O'Neill Center. So just a quick introduction on that piece. And I just want to thank everyone for showing up today and joining us on this presentation. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and just jump right in. So here's kind of the snippet of what we'll be going over today. So we'll go ahead and start with Mike. So Mike McClellan is from the United States Postal Inspection Services. He's going to talk to us today about mail fraud and trends. So Mike, I'll let you go ahead and just take it over for us.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen here. All right, is it big enough? Can you see? So hey, I'm Mike with the Postal Inspection Service. I've been here for about 6 years. Prior to that, I was with the Secret Service for about 14 years. So I do a lot of fraud, especially involves a lot of elderly fraud and a lot of the stuff going through the mail, which identity theft, the romance scams, and a lot of these things I'll touch on in this PowerPoint. If you have questions, we'll leave a couple minutes afterwards. I can answer some questions. And then if anything after that, my email will be on here, and Amanda will have it as well. She can share it. Just a little kind of what we do, basically anything going through the mail, which pretty much is about anything involving fraud, we can investigate it. And then I'm just going to touch on this, and I can't express it enough. Like, anyone can be a victim. Everybody thinks that they wouldn't fall for that scam, or they wouldn't fall for that, but I've seen it. Everyone falls for something, because everything. It's that old saying that if it's too good to be true, then well, it's probably not true. Here's the different types of scams there are. I mean, this isn't limited, but this is what we see a lot of. The investment scams, the romance scams, and the lotteries are what we see a big part of. I'm just kind of talking about the what the lottery scams are. They will contact you. You know, used to be a lot of phone calls and direct mail, but now it's more if they get your email and the social media. With social media being as big as it is, that's where they target a lot of people. Facebook Messenger, amongst any of the other messaging apps that you can get on, that's what they like to target. And they'll talk to you, and they'll befriend you, and they'll tell you that, hey, you're definitely going to win this. You just need to send some cash for your few cash payments to make payments on your winnings. There's the different things. They'll claim that they're insurance agents. They'll claim that they're law enforcement. We see that all the time, where they'll claim they're postal inspectors, or FBI or IRS, basically trying to strong arm you into believing that what they're selling is true. But there is no federal law enforcement agency ever going to ask you to pay for fees on any winnings, and nor is any law enforcement agency involved in a lottery. Just a couple of things you can do is, like, regardless of what they say, they may say they're going to come to your house and take your vehicles, take your house. They're going to come knock on your door. 99% of the times, these people are not even in the United States. They're doing this. These are just threats to try to get you to go ahead and send money to them. Don't mail, and the biggest thing we say is don't mail money to people you don't know. Make sure you know who you're sending it to. Don't just send it to some random person, even if they say they're an insurance agency and they're going to handle the processing of your fees. It's just somebody else's house, and I'll kind of get into that in a minute on how that works. Can't say this enough. This happens a lot. Everybody can get scammed at any age. Sometimes being repeatedly scammed. A lot of that, and what we mean by that is that we see that a lot of, as you get older, nobody wants to talk about it. They got scammed into something, and then they get embarrassed. They don't want to talk about it at all, and then they kind of do it again, especially if they're living by themselves and don't have a friend or family network. Those are the ones we see fall victim to this a lot. These are the telemarketing scams, which kind of goes back to the sweepstakes where you've won something, the lottery. Um, you can see on here, once you send money once or once you engage in conversation with these people, like you get put on the sucker list. We've found some of these sucker lists and search warrants, and they're lists of thousands of names and phone numbers. And this basically, once you kind of realize that you are a scam, you're not going to fall victim to this scam again. They basically take your name and list and then send it to the next room over, and they try a different scam on you, and they'll just keep passing it along until eventually, if you're wise to it, they'll stop. Um, the grandparent scam with the jail, get out of jail. We also see this where they'll get a phone call in the middle of the night saying that their grandson, granddaughter, or daughter or son was in an accident too, is in the hospital and needs money to pay for medical bills. And it'll be somebody posing as an attorney or a doctor or whatever it may be to try to get you to send money. And they'll actually probably know your son or your granddaughter or your granddaughter's name. They get a lot of this from social media or public records, try to put two and two together, and then they'll just try to get you to do this to trick you in the middle. It's usually a call in the middle of the night. I just say, just pick up the phone and just call whoever it is they claim that they're representing, because it's not going to be the case. The charity frauds, we see that some. These are big around the holidays and natural disasters. Charities are great. Just before you send the money, just verify that that is the actual charity, or if it's one that you've known in the past, then you're fine. But when you get these solicitations on different charities, like, confirm that is what it is before you send anything to them. Just a little bit more information, kind of what I just said on the charities. You'll get documents. You'll get stuff in the mail. It'll have an official seal on it. It'll look like it's legitimate. These are things that you can pull off of the internet. They put it on a piece of paper and type up a nice Word document that looks legitimate, and then they send that off. And a lot of people fall for that because it looks like it's real. It looks like it really is coming from the IRS, and that they will have a warrant for me if I don't send this money. Yeah, kind of along the same thing with the beware of similar sounding names when it comes to charities. Like, just verify. I can't say that enough. Verify before you send any money to them. The investment scams where, hey, you can invest in them. We used to see the old gold bars was one, but we still see that occasionally where people think they're going to get gold from somewhere in the Middle East or Africa. Those are the areas where we see them claiming to be have the gold coming from, and they're asking you to, we just need you to pay for the shipping to get it here in the United States, and then we can handle it from there. We'll split the proceeds with you. These are all scams when it comes to that. Anytime you hear gold bars or anything, those are going to be scams. And if you're not sure about something, you can talk to local law enforcement, or you can even hit up the local post office. And if they're not sure about something, they'll reach out to us. But they're pretty good on these scams because they see it all the time. And we talk to the postal employees all the time about these types of scams, because this is where it usually originates from, is somebody coming in, getting postal money orders, or sending actual cash in the mail to these people. You'll see them send stuff like, these are the virtual office space is something where they'll claim, you'll see a picture online of looks like their office building, and they'll have the brochures, they'll have credentials that are fake, and they put that. Those things are easily photoshopped and put onto something. So just because it looks real on the internet does not mean it is real. And this is one that has always been a problem and will continue to be a problem, is the romance scams. They target people. They're looking on the internet. Anytime somebody's recently passed away or lost a loved one, they know that there's probably maybe some life insurance money or some kind of an inheritance coming from that. And they really will target, and they'll friend you for a long time. They'll talk to you for weeks without asking for any money to get you to earn their trust. And then here it comes, the money, where they have a business that's gone bad, or they need help getting out of some debt or whatever, or they're claiming they'll come see you. They need money to travel to come see you. They're never coming. But they will continue to ask for money. You'll send them money, and then they'll come up with some excuse as to why they can't make it. These are just some examples, like these photos. You can put any photo on there, and this is actually what the scammers are doing. They're working in a little cubby, is essentially what it is. If you can picture something like any of the phone companies, or when you call like your cable company, if you can envision a bunch of cubicles with people working in it, working phones, well, that's what these scammers are doing too, and they just pass your information along. Here's just an example of one with somebody, this is Sally that reached out to somebody. This was an actual case. Reached out to here, needed them to send money. They love each other, can't wait to see each other, just need you to send this. In this case was worked, and then here is Sally. So this is the type of things that we see all the time. I mean, you can put any photo of anybody on there. Don't send money. I can't say it enough. Don't send money to people you've never met in person. And this is just some of the type of things that I've seen people take second mortgages, lose their house, where they've gone so far down that rabbit hole of sending money and they don't know how to stop. And then they're embarrassed to talk about it. They don't want to tell anybody that they sent this money. And then they just, for whatever reason, just continue to send the money. And sometimes it's because they're lonely, they live by themselves, and it's somebody to talk to, so they don't mind sending everything. Just send that, give that money, spend that money on yourself, or send it to your loved ones. Don't send it to these guys. Just the type of things what you can do to protect yourself. You can contact your local police if you fell victim, sent money, and realize after the fact that it was a scam, and then you can contact the Postal Inspection Service. And if you can get online to do that, you can file complaints online, or you can even go to your local post office and they'll reach out to us as well. If you have banks involved, alert your banks, let them know. That way, if your account numbers or something, they're not trying to get into your accounts. Contact Social Security Administration, and then you can. I encourage you to check your credit, get a credit report every year. I would encourage you to do that through the credit unions or credit bureaus. These are other things that they'll send you to make it look like it's legitimate. This is a type of an investment thing where they're sending something, and these are just Word documents that they just put together. It makes it look like an actual statement. None of this is real. This is just a couple that got a package in the mail. They were part of these scams where they were paying fees, expecting to get their winnings, and they had basically ran out of money at that time, and they were then told they could invest into something, and they had no money. So they were like, well, we actually have another investor that is willing to go in with you that can help you out with the money. So they get this package. The package has all this cash in it. They're told to send this cash to this broker in another place, which turns out the broker, the address they're sending it to, is just another victim, or what we call a money mule, that will then take that money and they're going to deposit that money and wire that overseas. Just don't send this type. This stuff it really does happen. Don't send this. Don't get involved with this. I want to touch on money mules in a second, because that's a common theme we're seeing a lot of right now. And by the time we catch these people, your money's already been moved several times to different accounts, and it's gone. Protect your money. I can't say it with the investings. Research it before you send it. If there's any red flags or something that doesn't feel right about it, dig into it a little bit more. And then like I said, you can always talk to somebody about it. You can always call us, and we can see if there's anything that's legitimate about it. But a lot of times I tell people that if there's something that there's a red flag about it, then there probably is a little bit to it. There's probably a little bit of a scam behind some of it. You can work out with, contact the Better Business Bureau. You can look online, or you can call them to see if a business is legitimate. They're a good resource to look into. You can contact us, as well as the Federal Trade Commission as well. Yeah, and it can happen. It can happen to anybody. And if I can just take a couple minutes with the money mules, and what I mean by money mules is that we get people that do these work from home opportunities. This is, all you'll be told is, you know, hey, we got some money. I'm a traveling whatever it is in the business and as a business person, but I'm going to funnel some money. This is, and it falls in lines with the romance scams, the investment scams. But people that are sending you money to these particular money mules, the victims are being told that you're an insurance agent or you're a broker that's going to help handle this deal with this investment deal. And they'll send the money through you, whether it be money orders or actual cash, and then they're going to ask you to deposit it into an account and send it here, and that the scammers will actually pay you to do this. But you're now basically you're taking victims' money. These victims think they're sending it to somebody as an investment when actually you think you're doing a work from home job. We're seeing a lot of the money muling going on right now, and those even involve where they may contact you and ask you they'll purchase iPhones and everything and other electronic devices, have them sent to you. Your work from home job is to open the package, ensure that's what's in the package, seal the package back up, and then the scammers will actually send you a shipping label on where to ship those electronic devices. We see a lot of that stuff going on. If you're getting stuff and you have no idea, that's why I say these are all fictitious jobs. These are not work from home opportunities. And what you are is you're a mule at that point, whether it be sending actual cash or sending items. And you're an unknowing participant, which just basically adds to the scam. So be leery of that. If you get contacted about sending stuff through the mail, then you don't have no idea who it's coming from. And that's it in a nutshell. I know I went through that real quick, and there's some of it gets a little more complicated, but at the end of the day, if it's too good to be true, and these work from home opportunities about getting packages, and if it seems a little odd that you just want me to open this package, seal it back up, and send it on, then yeah, there's something's going on with that.
Mike, I think we might have a question from Zoom from
Okay.
Larry. Larry, are you there? Did you have a question? I see Larry. Okay, well, we'll come back to him. Oh, wait, he jumped off and now he's jumped back on.
Great presentation, Mike. Thank you. That's a lot of very useful information.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. If you have questions, there's my email. I know Amanda will have it as well, so feel free to reach out to me.
Larry, you had your hand raised. Did you still have a question? Okay, well, moving on.
Do you all have any questions in-house? Not yet? Perfect. Well, if anything comes up, again, just reach out to me and I can give you his email address and we can get in touch with him if you have any questions. All right. Thank you so much, Mike. We really appreciate your time.
Yep, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, so up next, I'll go ahead and announce our, let's see, Teresa Busher and Kelly Drogun. They're going to have kind of a dual presentation for us today. So they're from the Social Security Administration, and they're going to talk about protecting you from fraud and abuse. So please, Kelly and Teresa, take it away for us.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm Kelly Dragu. I'm a public affairs specialist here in the Cincinnati area for Social Security. And Teresa Busher is my counterpart up in Dayton. She's the public affairs specialist there. Together, she and I kind of do outreach and education for Social Security for all of central and southern Ohio and a little bit of Indiana, southeastern Indiana. So we are here today to give you a nice presentation about protecting you from fraud and abuse. So Teresa, would you like to say hello, or you want to wait till you're ready to present?
I'll just say hey and take it away, my dear.
All right. So let's go ahead and get started for you here. So we just want to make sure that we give you some highlights about Social Security and what kind of fraud is going on as far as phone scams and that sort of thing. First, let me tell you how to contact Social Security. I think that's pretty important. Our offices are not open to in-person services right now. You're probably well aware of that. We have not reopened since the coronavirus caused us to close our doors. However, we are open and working every day as normal, but we are working over the telephone and through the internet. So you can still reach us at our 1-800-772-1213 number. That's our national number. Representatives answer that call or that phone between 8 a.m. and 5:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. There is information on there that's provided by automated phone services 24 hours a day. So you can do things outside of those hours by calling that number, things like change your address, get proof of income if you need a benefit verification letter. Those types of things you can still do after hours using the automated service. If you'd rather talk to your local office, now is the time. Our local office telephone numbers have historically been rather difficult to locate. Well, now they're available to the public on our website. socialsecurity.gov/locator will give you your local office telephone number, fax number, and address when you enter your zip code. So calls are being answered by our local offices between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. weekdays, and all of our staff is working remotely to get all of your mail and faxes and everything like that processed. Remember, local offices are not open to in-person services, so don't try to go to an office. You won't be allowed to get in. You can get updates from Social Security at a special website that we've designed, ssa.gov/coronavirus. That's giving you all the up-to-date information about any changes taking place while our offices are not open to in-person services. So things like if you have questions about what do you need as far as a verification in order to replace your Social Security card? How can I get an in-person dire need appointment? What do I do if I have a hearing and I don't want to go to it in person or they're not offering it in person? All of these questions are answered for you on that website. So it's a really helpful tool. You can subscribe to it. You'll get an email each time there's any kind of update made. If you'd like to look at 2021 figures, you can go on our website, ssa.gov/COLA. That's going to give you all the new retirement figures and SGA amounts and maximum amount you can make when you retire and that kind of thing. And it'll show you all the information about how we calculate these numbers. So check that out if you like that sort of thing. We need you to know our benefits are being paid timely from Social Security. All the retirement, survivor, disability, and SSI benefits are going out just like normal. So even though our offices aren't open to in-person services, none of that has been interrupted. And finally, don't forget, be aware of letters or calls that are threatening payment stoppage from Social Security due to COVID. It's a scam. So don't let anybody tell you that that's going on. With My Social Security, this is our online account. If you haven't already created one for yourself, we really would like you to do so. This is how you can get secure, free personal information about different estimates for your future benefits based on your real earnings. You'll see your latest Social Security statement, your earnings history. You can do things like update your address and phone number and all of that sort of thing through your My Social Security account. So we want you to create one. Go on to ssa.gov/my-account. If you set one up for yourself, then fraudsters won't be able to try to set one up for themselves. So make sure you go ahead and get one established. You need to have a valid email address. You have to have a Social Security number. You also have to have a U.S. mailing address, and you have to be at least 18 years old. So parents will not be able to create one for their children. We've got enhanced security behind our My Social Security account now. So we've added a second method of to check the identification of account holders when you register or when you sign in. So this is in addition to the first layer of security, which is your username and your password. Now you're going to be able to enter and choose either your cell phone or an email address, where when you log in or sign in or create an account, we're going to send us a code to those And that's a second level of identity verification. And you'll need that before you can actually log into the account. And it'll do that every single time. When we are looking at verifying your identity when you create an account online, we've got a couple different ways for you to access and create an account now in which you will verify your identity. It used to be all you could do was answer a set of credit history quiz questions, where you would answer things about yourself from your credit bureau report, like that you owned a home in a certain year, what address was that, or you had a mortgage in 1982, what bank held that mortgage, things like that. Well, now we've made it a little bit easier because that credit quiz was a little complicated. Now we've made it a little easier where you can use your driver's license and upload information from either your driver's license or your state ID. And then we can verify you that way as well, with assistance with online data sharing with the BMV. When you do use your My Social Security account, it depends on whether you get benefits or not, on what you can use your account for. So if you're not getting any Social Security benefits yet, then number one, we want you to look at your My Social Security account at least once a year and look at your Social Security statement. Look at your earnings record. See that everything looks correct, because again, that's where we're basing your future estimates on. Use the retirement planning section in the interactive calculator that are right there to help you come up with what if scenarios, and what would your benefits be at certain ages in your lifetime. You can also look at your statement to see what your disability benefit would be, what you would leave your survivors if you pass away. If you haven't looked at the online Social Security statement in a while or ever, please do. It's a really valuable tool to help you start thinking about retirement, no matter how old you are. You can check your application status, and now you can even order a replacement Social Security card online through the My Social Security account. If you do get Social Security benefits, then you can do all these additional things as well. You can get proof of your income, change your address, change your phone number, start or change your direct deposit, even replace your Medicare card or replace the 1099 at tax time. And one extra note we just wanted to add is that if you are a representative payee for a beneficiary of Social Security benefits, well, now you can use your own My Social Security account to do things on behalf of the beneficiary. So you can report their monthly wages if they get disability benefits and work. You can complete their annual accounting if it's necessary. You can view or print their proof of benefits, and you can even update and enroll in direct deposit for some beneficiaries. So this My Social Security account is really valuable to help you do things online. Couldn't be more right for us to have this during the pandemic when you're not able to get into our offices. So please explore that. All right, let's get into Social Security scam awareness and fraud reports. First, we've got a video for you from our Commissioner, Andrew Saul.
Kel, we don't have any volume.
Okay. Sorry, I don't know why there's no sound. Let me go ahead and stop the video. You can see this video that I just showed. If you weren't able to hear that, unfortunately, you can see that video on YouTube, or it's a public service announcement that is being shared, throughout different television stations and such. The information we're going to give you in this PowerPoint is going to share pretty much of what Andrew Saul had to say. We want you to be aware of suspicious Social Security scam calls. Social Security employees do initiate contact with the public, but normally only for those that actually have ongoing business with Social Security. We may call you, but adverse actions always have to be mailed a notice with appeal rights. So we never call you to tell you something negative and then don't follow up with that. Employees will never threaten you with arrest or other legal information, and we will never, ever, ever, ever suspend a Social Security number. That's not even something in our vocabulary here, but that's a scam that's out there. Real government officials will never threaten arrest or legal action against you if you don't immediately send money. We will never promise to increase your benefits or resolve identity theft if you pay a fee or move your money into a protected account. Real government officials will never require payment with a retail gift card, a wire transfer, internet currency, or by mailing. We will never text or email you messages that contain your personal information. If you get any of these calls are fraudulent. Hang up. Do not provide any information at all about yourself. We want you to report Social Security scam fraud. To report allegations of Social Security fraud, waste, and abuse, go to https://oig.ssa.gov/report. This is where we're going to ask you if you've suffered a loss of money or if you've provided the imposter with any personally identifiable information like your Social Security number. We're going to ask people for the phone number that you were called from if you happen to have it, so write it down. Even if you haven't suffered any financial loss, reporting the fraud call to our website can help track imposters. And be sure you report the fraud. Like Mike said before, a lot of people are embarrassed and they don't want to report it. Please report it. Help us, what we call Slam the Scam. Tomorrow is National Slam the Scam Day. So that's where this is coming from. Understand your threat, exercise caution, and secure your information by all means. If you have been subject to fraud, report it. Go to oig.ssa.gov and report that fraud. Teresa?
Okay. We just want to take a couple minutes and talk about other types of Social Security fraud versus identity theft, okay? Because it's important to kind of delineate that there's the scam calls, but then sometimes there's other types of fraud. So a quick did you know trivia, and this is a bummer of trivia. There were 3.2 million reports of fraud through the FTC, and we know that's a drop in the bucket, and 1 in 10 people lost money to imposter scams. So as we've all been saying, it's real and it's somebody in your circle that you know. It could be any of us, right? So we just need you to make sure that you are spreading the word to your friends and family. Now, Social Security, we are so vigilant in terms of protecting Social Security numbers. It should make you feel good that your information is safe in the federal system. It's like the Postal Service, you know, we're protecting you. We're not sharing your data. We're not sharing or selling your Social Security number or your personal information. Be careful though, because there are other groups that sell our information, right? And sell information, including our personal data. Be vigilant about sharing your Social Security number. Don't carry your Social Security card. At least we have the Social Security number off the Medicare cards now. But some of you remember that we used to put Social Security numbers on everything. People used to have them on old-fashioned checks. When Kelly and I talk to younger groups, they can't believe that. We're like, yeah, people had their numbers everywhere. Now, you don't want to carry that in your wallet or any documents with you that have your Social Security number on those. You leave those safe at home in a drawer, right? So there are other types of fraud that involve Social Security, and these are ones we want you, to go ahead and report to our Office of the Investigator General. That's the website that Kelly gave you. And these are things that are outside of scam calls. If you think somebody is being abused by their representative with Social Security, like you think somebody's child is taking all of their Social Security money, you have a suspicion that somebody's buying or selling Social Security numbers, you think someone's impersonating an employee, if you have reason to feel that somebody's working on your Social Security number or has tried to file for Social Security benefits using your number, or you have suspicions that somebody's getting disability and they're really not disabled. And people do report these to us and we act on that because we have situations where someone's like, yeah, well, my neighbor says he's getting disability and he's out there doing all kinds of jobs, and you can report that anonymously and confidentially on our Office of the Inspector General fraud site. Now, there are other types of fraud, and our speakers that are coming up here in a minute are going to talk to you more about like identity theft. This is where folks are using your Social Security number, but it's not to work on it. And it's not to get a Social Security benefit. They're using our numbers to get credit off of us, to open loans, to get unemployment benefits off of us. We were saying before this all started that there's tons of us in Ohio and my own family, colleagues of mine, that we've been victims of the unemployment fraud that's going on. But that's not going to be our Social Security world, elder abuse or Medicaid billing and stuff. Those are going to be through those particular agencies. And so at that point, you're going to have to determine where you need to go, right? So if I know that unemployment fraud has happened to me, I'm going to call Job and Family Services or unemployment. You need to target that agency where the fraud happened. You're going to place fraud alerts on your credit reports. And our big federal base that we keep mentioning over and over again is the Federal Trade Commission. So that's the kind of umbrella federal agency that has some really good information. And of course, our awesome Ohio Attorney General's Office group, and Katie's going to talk to you about that here coming up in just a moment. So if you go to the identitytheft.gov, again, that's through the Federal Trade Commission, because it crosses state borders, doesn't it, you guys? Federal, that's why the Federal Trade Commission is involved. And the FTC can help you set up a plan to help you send out and fill out letters for credit bureaus and debt collectors and, address data breaches and things like that. So I'm going to kind of defer again more of that, pass that baton over to Katie when I think she's going to cover some of that probably when she talks about how the Attorney General's office can help with that situation. But what can we at Social Security do? Again, we want you to monitor your My Social Security account. When you set up an account, it wraps around protection and encryption on your Social Security information. So if someone's trying to fiddle with your information, you're going to get alerts from us, right? We're also trying to make sure that we join partners getting the word out that we have a fraud unit. And if if something's wrong with your Social Security number, if you need to correct your name or your date of birth, of course, we're going to do that. And we at Social Security can correct your W-2 records. If your earnings look incorrect, we're going to, help you correct that. But we are not able to monitor your credit. That's outside of our Social Security scope. We can't contact your bank or your credit union, and talk about that. That's where we're going to pass the baton and say you're going to have to talk to the credit bureaus. And we're not able to call law enforcement for you as an advocate. A lot of times folks will say, I think my identity was stolen. I need a new Social Security number. That's going to be extremely rare. It's very seldom we would issue a different number for someone because it's not going to resolve your credit issues. It's going to follow you. Even if you were to get a new Social Security number assigned to you, all your credit issues will follow with it. So that would be very rare. And sometimes folks think we are like the Born Identity movies and we can just verify everything in real time. We are not, my friends. So if someone is trying to work off of you right now, we will not know that immediately. Now we'll know that with W-2s and other things at the end of the year when folks upload information to us, but we can't necessarily verify that in real time, right? We can look at your record with you, but it may not reflect exactly this moment in time. So again, we're going to have you for fraud where people are trying to get credit off you, you're going to contact credit bureaus. And again, let's defer that for a moment because I think the AG's office, Katie's going to talk a little bit more about that and how you're going to make sure that you fan out to make sure you're contacting other agencies. We have a team of folks with Social Security that do education and outreach throughout Ohio. So those of you that are on the call as our partners or the general public, Kelly and I cover all of Columbus South, but we have wonderful colleagues in the Toledo, Akron, and Cleveland area, and we can always get you in touch with them for your friends and family up north if they're having issues. So make sure you follow our blog and sign up for those real-time updates that Kelly mentioned on our coronavirus page, because that will help you get, as a professional or as a member of the public, that will help you get real-time information when our office is open back up to public service, as we know we will be doing at some point here soon. And you'll find out in the same time probably that Kelly and I do as things unfold. Okay, so that kind of concludes our portion on Social Security. I'm thinking, Amanda, we may want to just keep going and then open it up for general kind of ID theft questions at the end, but I'll defer that to Amanda.
That would be great. That would be perfect. If you all wouldn't mind, just hold your questions until after the next presentation. That'd be great. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies. A lot of good information. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So next up, we're going to have Katie Harper, who's with the Ohio Attorney General's office, and Katie's going to talk about senior scams. So take it away, Katie. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Here, I'll do my share my screen moment as well. Okay. There we go. So he said, hello, my name's Katie Harper, and I'm from the Ohio Attorney General's Office, Consumer Protection Section. We have the majority of our workforce is based in Columbus, but we also have areas with our Police Officer Training Academy and our Bureau of Criminal Investigations, which are located around the state. So, what's consumer protection? We want to make sure there's a safe marketplace for consumers that enforce laws related to buying a vehicle, seeing a store advertisement. So if it's that great buy one, get one free deal, to make sure that they didn't just double the price. And then making sure that home improvement work was done to your standard and understanding. Just kind of an idea of where we saw the most consumer complaints last year. Motor vehicles always tops our list. I think mostly because that's generally the largest amount of money that you spend outside of purchasing a home. We have a constituent services group that you'll see the contact information at the end, that if you have a complaint or feel like you've been a victim of unfair business practices, sometime in some parts of the state, it has a lot to do with being provided propane on time, or you may not have received the title to your car in the 40-day period, or you're not happy with maybe your internet and cable package and that you had tried to discontinue after a free trial and they kept on charging you. So things like this, in addition to our identity theft unit, which I'll talk about in a moment, are ways that our constituent services can help you. We also have an economic crimes unit that helps and supports local law enforcement. And this week is the year anniversary of our robocall enforcement unit. Things are looking a lot different for us in National Consumer Protection Week than they normally would. Usually we'd be in the lobby of the Rhodes Tower handing out information or touring the state doing presentations such as this. But just wanted to bring a little bit of awareness about our robocall enforcement unit. What we're asking people to do is to contact us if you've just received an unusual amount of robocalls, like everybody. You can go online to ohioprotects.org and submit those phone numbers. What we're trying to do is compile a mass amount of phone numbers so that we, working with other agencies, can track back where these calls are coming from and if we can, help contribute to stopping them. And why do we get robocalls? There are legal robocalls, things like calls from your doctor's office, or if your school is going to be shut down because it's a snow day. But all the rest of them, and the majority of the ones that we get, are calls that you have not consented to and try to get you to pay for something or that great extended warranty for your car in the sky. So, talk a little bit about senior scams. Many of the scams that we cover have already been covered in this presentation, but I just wanted to kind of step back and give you a larger overview. Why are seniors targeted? Mostly trusting and polite, are perceived to have more assets or at least more access to cash. Less likely to report fraud, and this was touched on a little bit about being maybe embarrassed or I should have known better. Just take that excuse right off the table. This is the scammer's job. All they have to do all day is to dream up new and more creative ways to try to separate you from your money or your personal identifiable information. So if you ended up getting pulled into a scam, it's okay. you have groups like us trying to help you get out of it, but the better that you realize what's going on and ask for help, the less assets you're most likely to lose. And even now, with all of us working from home, a lot of us are in the same boat, that maybe we're more isolated than we used to be. And if I would have received this scam text or email while I was at work, maybe I would have just popped over to my coworker Danielle's office right next to me and said, does this seem legit to you, or is something off? A lot of us have lost that kind of secondary gut check system now that a lot of us have been working from home. So if you ever have a question or think about, is this right? Do use the buddy system and check in with a friend. So the next two slides are kind of the big overview of scams. So we've talked about the grandparent scam, we've talked about Social Security scam, but here are kind of the main components that most scams embody. Anytime that they're asking for wire transfer, prepaid money cards, or gift cards, you are not going to be able to bail your grandchild out of jail with a gift card. It's just not how our system receives money. So that's the number one red flag. Requests for personal information kind of reminds me of when I was growing up, we were always taught stranger danger. You know, don't just give out your home address or your phone number or your full name to anyone. That applies to us as adults as well. Any pressure to act immediately. I'm not sure why 24 hours seems to be the sweet spot, but in a lot of scams, it is you have to act within 24 hours and then the threat comes. Your utilities will be shut off. Your, Social Security payment will be stopped. Anything that has an immediate economic consequence, or you'd be arrested. Those are some of the threats that are usually accompanied with pressure to act immediately. And then requests to keep the conversation a secret. A lot of times this will happen with your work from home scams or romance scams, where they really don't want you to have that buddy check system to say, does this seem right? Using Mike's example, that I can make all this money just by receiving a package, looking at it, sealing it back up, and mailing it back out. I think that would definitely go under his too good to be true area. Any guarantee to make money. You'll make $5,000 a month working from home, stuffing envelopes. Well, if this was an actual opportunity, I may not be on the presentation today. I may be working from home, stuffing envelopes for $5,000, but no. So again, with the too good to be true idea, any requests for a large down payment, we see that a lot with home improvement scams. Generally advised not to put more than 30% down unless it's a company you've worked with in the past, you know them very well, but that's about that threshold. No contract or nothing written in the contract. This scam is usually when they'll say, oh, well, we can't put the percentage of the interest rate for whatever this purchase will be, because I really want to take it back to my manager and get you the best deal. But we have to get the deal done today, so just sign it and I'll get back to you. And then sending money out of the country. In some scams, this is very apparent, like the oldie but the goodie, the Nigerian print. In other scams, it's not as apparent that that's where your money is going. So, Social Security's already talked about the grandparent scam. So we'll move on from that. Imposter scam. So this is also sometimes known as the Social Security scam or a law enforcement scam. It's where someone is pretending to be a government official or someone in law enforcement. one thing that I like to bring up about this scam is it's kind of evolved as we've been going through the pandemic. And we've seen two different strains of this. One, people calling and pretending to be contact tracers. So contact tracers are folks who either work directly for your local health department or are contracted by them to, determine the breadth of someone who had been exposed to COVID-19. So the way that they will ask you some personal identifiable information, but the way you can tell the difference between a scammer and an actual contact tracer would be the actual contact tracer is never going to tell you it was your Aunt Mary who has COVID, and this is why we need your personal information. They'll ask for limited personal information, but they will not ever ask for your banking information. So those are two kind of big red flags that you could tell the difference between a legitimate contact tracer and an imposter. Also, just a general reminder, there is no way for you to skip the line by paying to get a COVID shot vaccine, and there's no way for any financial transaction to happen with that. So anyone who's saying you have to pay them money to have access to a vaccine, that is also a scam. And why is this important? Thing that we call spoofing. You can't always trust your caller ID because the scammers are able to mask whatever phone number they're actually calling from and project whatever color or phone number they'd like. So while I am really excited that Social Security now finally has their local office phone numbers online, that might be something you want to look for now that that number is more readily available, that scammers have the actual number. And don't provide them any personal information. If you are really concerned as to whether this person is legitimate or not, you can always say, I'm busy right now, I will call you right back. And then use that legitimate number for calling your local health department or Social Security or the sheriff's office or whoever they're pretending to be. We've gone over prize sweepstakes scam. We get to the computer repair scam. This is an important scam to know about, as so many of us are now just spending a lot more time just directly in front of your computer, whether it's with family for Zoom meetings or Zoom happy hours or remote work and connecting with your team. We're pretty much stuck to our computer at the moment. So the computer repair scam involves someone contacting you and saying that there is a problem with your antivirus software and they need to have access to your computer in order to make sure you don't have any of those viruses on your computer. Well, I met a gentleman in Eastern Ohio when we had senior days and could go out and go around to tables and pick up little free hand sanitizers and squeeze balls. So he came over and said, I'm afraid to admit that I've been a victim of the Microsoft scam. And this is nothing wrong with Microsoft. The scammers usually use them because it's an identifiable company. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, well, this person called from Microsoft and said my anti-software was out of date. And, he could run a test to make sure that I didn't have a virus. And if I did, then he could take the virus off. So he asked me for the serial number on the back of my computer so that he could access my computer. And I said, okay. And he ran the test. And of course, that test came back with the big red screen of death, and you have a virus on your computer and it needs to be updated or you'll lose all your information. Of course, what was happening was the scammer was actually placing the virus on his computer. And then the gentleman agreed to pay $450 for them to remove this virus threat through a credit card. And the guy says, okay, it'll take about a half an hour. Then when you restart your computer, everything will be fine. Well, the scammer took that half an hour and went through all the files on his computer because he now has remote access. And unfortunately for the gentleman, he had his online username and password for one of his bank accounts in a folder. And the scammer was able to get into that online account and wipe out $30,000. So be very, very careful. And at the end of the day, if you have something wrong with your computer, take it into a respected computer shop, or if they have a drop-off delivery. Don't ever just depend on someone calling you out of the blue to say there's something wrong with your computer. So again, never allow remote access to your computer. And anybody who's calling you doesn't know anything about your computer. They can't tell if you have a virus or not. Check my time here, and we'll go right to identity theft as promised. So identity theft is when a person obtains and uses your personal information without your permission to commit a fraud. And why are we emphasizing obtains and uses? Because for it to be identity theft, both of those things happen together. Generally around the holidays, we'll hear about some large corporation whose credit card database has been hacked into, and that they are going to reassign numbers. Well, that's a problem, but if they can't pair the just plain number with the security code on the back and your name and phone number and address, they're not going to be able to actually utilize that account. So that's just theft. When they actually get all of that information together for your credit card and begin making charges without your permission, that's where we come into the area of identity theft. So here are a few warning signs of identity theft. Out of the blue, you're denied credit. There are unauthorized charges. Debt collectors are starting to contact you. Now this one I have, it's always a little difficult. Receive unfamiliar bills. That is the most obvious one. It can be hard if you just miss a bill for 1 month. I know I have a blend of online bill payments and bills I receive in the mail. So that's one, if you're worried about that, you may want to create like a mail list of I should have received my water, electricity, etc., whatever by this date. And then if you don't, you can contact them to see if there's been a problem. And then errors on your credit report. I would also reinforce the idea of getting a credit report every year. It's just like a little check-in. You can make sure that there aren't any errors. And throughout the last year, I believe it's extended through March 21st of this month, you can get a credit report about every week. That was part of the pandemic package to make sure people can make sure there weren't any errors. And to Teresa's point on the availability of Social Security number, my college dorm cafeteria card, it was my Social Security number. So we've come a long way in protecting those numbers. So make sure to check in annually, either online or calling in. So I will turn my time over, and then if you have any questions at the end of the presentation, I'd be happy to answer them.
Excellent, Katie. Thank you so much. A lot of really great information.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions, either online or in the audience here? Anything yet? No? All right, so I guess we'll just move on to our next presenter then, our final presenter. So here we have Andrew Tangum, who's with the Ohio Consumers Council. Andrew is going to talk about utility consumer protections today for us. So Andrew, please take it away. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. And yes, I think so far all 4 presenters have provided just great information. Even myself, who talks about scams and fraud, I still learn a lot from all my other colleagues that serve with the federal and state offices. So it's certainly a lot out there, and it's good information to know. I'm with the Office of the Ohio Consumers Council, and we're just a small state office that advocates for residential utility consumers. And how we try to help consumers who have questions regarding regulated electric, natural gas, water, and telephone. So at least there in Washington County, that would include companies like AEP and Dominion East Ohio Gas, maybe even Columbia Gas of Ohio. So we do have a lot of good information on our website. Feel free to go out there. It's www.occ.ohio.gov. We have information on timely utility issues that are occurring in the state. And we also have a lot of educational information on consumer protections, which I'll go into a little more detail here in a few minutes. We have information on energy savings through energy efficiency, information on energy choice, how to understand your electric and natural gas bill, and the list goes on and on. Certainly go to our website once again at www.occ.ohio.gov to review that type of information. But there is a lot of scams out there, and you might be shocked to know that, and I think Katie kind of hit on this a little bit, but even in the utility industry, there is scams. But when I say utility industry, it's usually not the utility company scamming you. Some people might argue with me there when they get their bill each month, but it's usually imposters. It's imposters posing as the utility company who are trying to, unfortunately, take money from you and your personal information. So I want to go through some scams, some general utility scams that we see out there. Katie did talk about caller ID spoofing, and I can't even reiterate this enough that it's very important when you do get a phone call that you should definitely be cautious when you see the information that appears in your caller ID box, because there is a very good possibility that the company or the agency that it appears is coming from, it's not really coming from. And so once again, what caller ID is where when the caller is initiating the call, they change the information that appears on your caller ID box. And once again, they can make it look like it's coming from Social Security. They can make it look like it is coming from a bank. They can make it look like it's coming from AEP or Dominion. It might even look like it's coming from a local number. That's one tactic they've been using quite a bit recently. They make it look like it's coming from your area code and prefix. So, when I was out in the field talking to consumers, a lot of consumers I would talk to say that, it looks like it's coming from my town here in Belpre. And so I picked it up because I figured it was someone I know. And so once again, be cautious if you do answer these calls. If they start asking for personal information or they start asking for any type of payment, disconnect the call as soon as possible. Now, kind of leading into that, I'd like to talk about the emergency payment scam. Once again, Katie kind of touched on this a little bit, so I won't go into too much detail, but it is one scam that's been going around for a while. And the emergency payment scam is where a scammer calls a consumer. They change the information that appears on your caller ID to make it appear that it's coming from your electric company, natural gas company, telephone company, cable company. And at that point, they tell you that they are going to disconnect your service in a short amount of time. Might be within an hour, it might be within 24 hours or at the end of the day. And they instruct the consumer to go to the local store, whether it be the local gas station, convenience store, whether it's going to the grocery store. They want you to purchase a prepaid credit card, or they may want you to purchase a retail card like an Amazon card or an Apple iTunes or Google Play card. And they may want you to purchase it in a certain amount of money, let's say $500. And what they instruct is either they're going to call you back to obtain those numbers on the back of the bill as part of the payment, or they are going to have you call a 1-800 number that sounds pretty official when you call it to provide that payment. And so with this scam, what we suggest is if you get a call and they state they're with the utility company and they're going to disconnect your service in a short amount of time, don't act on it. Hang up the phone. Utilities in Ohio do not disconnect service in a short period of time. You know, in Ohio, at least with regulated electric and natural gas companies, they have to provide you a 14-day notice year round. And usually that would appear on your utility bill. So it would be something you would notice when you open up a utility bill. But what happens is with this scam, you get consumers, you know, the weather's a lot better it is today than it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, but you get a really cold day. Someone calls and threatens to disconnect your service, and what's running through your mind is you're going to lose your heat. Maybe, you know, coming up here in a few months, you might be your air conditioning. And the last thing a consumer wants to do is lose that. And that's why we see consumers act on this issue. You know, if you get one of these calls and you're still not sure, you know, you hung up the phone, but you still maybe are concerned that your service might be disconnected, you know, disconnect the call and call the utility company with the number provided on the utility bill. The other thing I wanted to warn you about is really the overpayment scam. And it's kind of the opposite of what we just talked about with the emergency payment scam. And this is where someone calls and states that they're with the utility company, but they say that you've overpaid in your account. They want to return that money back to you. But they're going to need your banking account information, or they're going to need your credit card number in order to return that money back to you. Once again, if you get one of these calls, I mean, it sounds great when you're going to get money back. But if you're not expecting that, certainly hang up that call your utility company directly to see if that's truly the case. They will tell you that it is not, more likely, because once again, they don't usually call with those type of issues. Another thing that I wanted to warn you about is door-to-door sales. Certainly what I always say with door-to-door sales is as the weather becomes nice, like we're currently having, you're getting more warmer and summer day, you know, more warmer days, more sunny days. And what I always kind of think of is when the flowers start popping up, so do the door-to-door salesmen. They start knocking on our door. Be careful with that. One area that we see, at least in the utility industry, is there is a lot of electric and natural gas suppliers going door to door to try to get you to switch your service to their provider. Now, once again, you know, customers in Ohio with AEP and Dominion and Columbia, you know, they do have that opportunity to shop around for an energy supplier. That doesn't mean you have to change, but where you need to be careful, we have heard of reports where these door-to-door salesmen, and a lot of times the third-party companies, they don't actually work for the suppliers. These companies hire these companies out to do the door-to-door sales. But when they knock on the door, what they request, sometimes what they'll do is a request to see your utility bill from your primary utility company, like your AEP bill, or they may ask for that account number on your utility bill. You never want to let them see your bill. You never want to provide that bill to them. You never want to give out that account number, because even if you say no, but you provided that information, that energy supplier could take that account number and switch your service without your authorization, which is also known as slamming. So be very careful with that. Once again, what happens is we've seen consumers get slammed. They didn't request the service, but the company switched their service anyway. And then they get their next bill, and their bill's a lot more expensive than it normally would be. And they look down to see a company that they never authorized, and they're not sure why that happened. So that's, you know, with slamming, it's important to review your utility bill each month to make sure you're paying service for the company that you requested. And where it can be hard to locate, like on your AEP and Dominion bill, that's where these suppliers bill. You know, AEP serves as a third-party biller. They bill for their services, but if you sign up with a supplier for your energy service, they bill for that company too. So if you're not watching your bill close enough and you got slammed, you may not even recognize that for months. And so once again, look at your bill each month. If you do have one of these energy marketers come to your door and they start requesting to see your bill, or they ask for your account number, don't give that information out. The last scam I wanted to talk about is cramming. Cramming is adding products and services to your utility bill without your authorization. I just mentioned that, your utility companies serve as third-party billers for many different companies, along with billing for their services. But what we've seen, especially in the telephone industry, is these third-party companies will add products and services to your telephone bill without your authorization. And these charges usually reoccur each month. So if you don't notice them or address them right away, you're going to continue to pay for these services. What we have found that they're usually vague in what you're even paying for. It may state insurance, or it may state membership fee, or line insurance. So usually it's vague in what you're even purchasing from the company. And so that if you do notice that, report that to the Public Utilities Commission. They look into those type of issues, and contact the company that's billing you, and challenge that, because once again, that is one issue where consumers can be billed for stuff that they didn't request. And what makes it tough is a lot of times when they bill customers for these type of services, they're usually, and they reoccur each month, they're usually not high in price. It's like $3 to $5. I think they keep it low enough in order for you to not notice that your bill is increased. And so they hope that you never notice it and you keep paying for it each month. But once again, hopefully that provides you some information on what's happening, at least in the utility industry in terms of scams. As everyone's mentioned, all the participants today, scams are bad. And with so much technology out there, there's so many ways for them to reach us. And, you talk about, you got telephones, cell phones, emails, texts, social media. There's just so many outlets for scammers to connect with us. And I know personally, I'm, if you just look through my spam email, there's people trying to scam me every day. And I think everyone else on this call is probably in the same boat. And I've received the strange texts and strange phone calls, and even those phone calls at times, for someone that does this day in and day out, can sound very convincing. And so keep your guard up. And to close it out, the one thing, one homework assignment I would like to provide everybody is, you learned a lot of information today, but share that with anyone that you know, family, friends, neighbors, make them aware of what's going on. Tell them to be cautious. And because the more we can get the word out, hopefully the more we can prevent these type of scams. I think it was Social Security put up the figures of the average person in terms of how much money they give away for scams. It's like $667, I think, and thinking that billions of dollars is spent on this a year. It's just when you hear those numbers, it's something that makes me sick, because I don't want to see anyone lose their hard-earned money, that people have worked and saved to have. And but once again, that I'm going to wrap up. I did put my contact information in the chat box, so feel free, if you ever have any questions, to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have, whether it's currently or in the future. But thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Andrew. And that's great information. Yeah, let's make sure to share everything that we've learned today and kind of spread the word. I mean, these are just, just kind of mind-boggling how many different scams and how many different ways that people can try to get to us, on a daily basis. And yes, I do get a lot of spam emails that I know are typically spam, but there are some that are super convincing. So I think that there's a lot of good information for all of us to kind of take home today. Absolutely. And again, really, really good presentations. And I really appreciate all the information you guys have provided. Were there any other questions? Did anybody have any questions that would like to go over, or are there any scams that you guys have been through that you would like to notify anyone of, or any discussion topics at all? We're open to it. Anybody? All right, guys. Well, if you don't have any questions, again, I would just like to thank the panel for really, giving us some really good information today and sharing a lot of new things and, kind of helping walk us through some of these items. If you guys need any additional information with like email addresses, please feel free to contact me and I would be happy to help you get in contact with these amazing folks that have helped us out today. So I think with that, unless anybody has anything else, we'll just go ahead and end it today.
No, thank you for having us. And Teresa and Andrew and Kelly, it's nice to see your faces again. I haven't got to see my counterparts at different agencies in a while. So bye.
Good to see you all. Thank
And
you.
thanks, Amanda.
Thanks so
Thank
much.
you.
Have a great day.
Thanks.
Hey, thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.